Hi, in this video I'd like to talk about durable functions. Durable functions is an extension on Azure Functions, which allows you to write stateful and long-running orchestration functions. This opens up quite some new scenarios. For instance, you could have an orchestration function call other functions and wait for those results. Or you could have an orchestration function wait for external events. There's already quite good documentation on the Microsoft website about durable functions. In addition, I also blogged about durable functions and the role of the durable orchestration client and the durable orchestration context. And in addition to the blog, I'll create several videos, starting with this one, where I will explain how to trigger an orchestration function using an HTTP trigger, like is shown here. So on the left we see the HTTP start function, which is the HTTP trigger function. And that function uses the durable orchestration client to create an instance of the orchestration function, in this case the hello world function. Let's have a look at that in Visual Studio.
So I've started Visual Studio 2017 and opened up the Durable Functions demo solution. I'll include a link in the description where you can clone this repository. The solution is a function app which contains three different functions: the HTTP start function and the hello world function, which we'll cover in this video, and also a collect names function, which I'll cover in the next video. Let's have a look first at the HTTP start. So the idea behind this HTTP start function is that you can trigger it by doing an HTTP call to this orchestration / function name route. And so by passing in the name of the hello world function, you can actually start an instance of that function and run it. What's new in this function is the orchestration client input binding. This allows us to use the durable orchestration client, which will actually create and start the orchestration instance. So what's happening is first some input is read from the body of the request and put in the event data variable. And then the start new async method is called on the orchestration client. And there the function name is passed in together with the event data. And so this is the moment the orchestration function is actually instantiated. Finally, the orchestration client is used again to create a HTTP response message. And we'll have a look in a couple of moments what that response message will look like. So let's look now at the hello world function. Well, this is the most basic orchestration function I could think of. It doesn't do any orchestration actually. The only thing which is it doing, it's actually getting some input from the durable orchestration context and then echoing that input out again. But this is just to show you how to start a function orchestration and how to read an input. And in the next videos I'll cover some more interesting areas. So let's try to run this locally. Before we can do that, we need to start the Azure Storage Emulator. So let's do that now. Okay, the storage emulator is running. You also need to make sure that your local settings include the development connection strings, which is actually pointing to the storage emulator. So now we can start the function app locally. So it's spinning up the Azure Functions runtime. And now we have an endpoint for our HTTP start function. So now we can actually copy this endpoint and use it in a tool such as Postman. So let's paste it in here. Let's actually use the hello world function name. It's going to be a post, and we're going to provide some input in the body. Okay, so let's send this request. And we get some response. It might not be the response you expected, because we don't actually see hello durable functions, but that's because we don't get the response directly back from the hello world function, but we get the response back from the HTTP start function. So if we look at what's in the response, we first get the ID of the orchestration function. So this is the instance ID of the hello world orchestration function. And then we get 3 URIs. And the first one can actually be used to check the status of the orchestration function. So let's run that. A new request. And here we can see that the hello world orchestration function is actually completed. We can see the input, and here we can see the output. Hello durable functions. If the hello world orchestration function was a very long running one, and we would have called the get status before it was completed, this status would be running. So the other URIs, the send event post URI, that one can be used to send an external event, which can be picked up by an orchestration function. And I'll show this example in the next video with the collect names for a function. The last URI can be used to terminate an orchestration function. So for instance, that could be a very long running function, and you don't want to wait until it's properly finished. Then you can call this URL to terminate it.
So this was a brief overview how to use an HTTP trigger, which uses the durable orchestration client in order to create a new instance of an orchestration function, and how to use the get status URI to retrieve the status and results of an orchestration function. In the next video, I'll cover long-running orchestration functions, which can respond on external events. If you want to know more about Azure functions or durable functions, please have a look at my blog, follow me on Twitter, and please subscribe to this channel.